And now, the general weather around Alaska.
Welcome to Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan coming to you from the National Weather Service in Alaska region on this second day of 2025. And I hope you had a happy new year and certainly looking to the time ahead. We are going to have some active weather returning to our state, but if you'd like additional weather information on top of what I provide, you can go to weather.gov. That is National Weather Service's online presence. It'll bring you to a map of the continental U.S. on the web page, and if you point and click anywhere on this map, it'll give a very specific forecast for any location in the country. Of note, on this Thursday afternoon, we have winter storm watches already posted for areas of the Midwest from Kansas, southeast Nebraska, across Missouri into Illinois, Indiana, northwest Kentucky. And this is for Saturday evening into Sunday. There could be a band of heavier snowfall. The south end could include some freezing precipitation. We already have winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories in the northern Rockies covering much of Montana. That system is heading southeastward. Already some Arctic air has impacted the Great Lakes toward the northeast. With this system coming through, though, that's going to allow it to have a deeper influence here over the Great Lakes northeast and at least Ohio Valley. And then another storm's going to come up around January 9th. Perhaps Dallas, Fort Worth could get in on some heavy snowfall. But in the meantime, we do have a shot of Arctic air working its way east to west across the interior through early this weekend. Temperatures are going to be down in the 20s and 30s below, very common, with some 40s and even 50 below readings possible, especially in the normally cold spots. And if you don't get that cold, areas that stay in the 20s below will have some wind. And so it doesn't matter because your wind chill is going to feel like it's 40 or 50 below. So there are a number of cold weather advisories and warnings that are in effect now through Saturday morning. I'll highlight those in a moment. And then the pattern's going to begin to turn around here later this weekend and next week through next weekend. A wetter, snowier, milder flow of air coming up from the North Pacific into the Gulf will impact areas along the Gulf Coast, southern Alaska, Panhandle, especially next week. So looking at a few sites that have had some very cold temperatures. Fort Yukon, clear and bitter cold, mid-afternoon temperature, 45 below. You can see the sun there just on the southern horizon. This temperatures around Fort Yukon will probably get around or just below 50 below tonight into Friday morning. Tok, clear and frigid, 33 below. We'll likely see lows back down around or a bit below 40 below for tonight into Friday morning. And as we go further way out to the west, the Aleutians, Dutch Harbor, some light rain, breezy conditions, 40 degrees there. There's a frontal system lifting northward that'll bring some gale force winds across the Aleutians, along with some light to maybe moderate rainfall into Friday. Sitka right now, partly cloudy this Thursday afternoon, 37, but going to get clipped by a little trough that could bring a few light snow showers or mixed rain snow showers. On Friday, the bigger pattern shift impacting the northeast Gulf Coast and the Panhandle will come starting Saturday night into Sunday and then continuing through much of next week. And hey, I just want to say Happy New Year to everybody. If you didn't catch the show yesterday, Katie Turk submitted this beautiful image, corona, auroral corona with a recent display of northern lights that occurred New Year's Eve into New Year's Day. It was spectacular. I was driving back from Talkeetna that morning to make the show here. And it was just, I was bathed in auroral light as I was driving back. So I want to especially thank Katie. We have a couple other viewers I want to acknowledge. We have Sebastian up in Dawson City, who often relays some reports. And also in Solana there we have Alan, who gave a few reports of some temperatures around Christmas and New Year's Day. So looking at what we have here, these are the current advisories and warning. There is a extreme cold warning for Chilkoot White Pass for wind chills 40 to 50 below there. And then these areas are for extreme cold advisories because air temperatures combined with wind chills either are going to be on the order of 40 to 50 below, including Thompson Pass. This is the area 40-mile gold country down through Northway, Tok, and then the Copper River Basin east toward McCarthy. Other side of the Alaska Range, you're going to start to feel the influence of that colder air come Friday afternoon and more so for Saturday morning. But we're also having cold air work its way just east to west across the interior along the Tanana and especially from the upper down through middle lower Yukon Valley as we go through this weekend. So you're also going to see cold temperatures there too. Maybe not quite as cold as the readings in the southeast and east central interior, but nevertheless, certainly dress appropriately and take the various precautions for this kind of cold. Now, areas of the Panhandle, you see here in blue, special weather statement for that pattern change coming up later this weekend and next week. We're going to start to see moisture come back up out of the North Pacific into the Gulf with a series of low pressure systems in front that'll get the old weather maker going pretty good here that we have not seen at least through a good part of the holidays. Now, looking at the satellite imagery, here comes this one little trough that may fling a little bit of light snow along areas of the southern and the western Panhandle tonight into Friday. Back out to the west, we have a front that's going to be lifting northward across the Aleutians. It has some showers, lighter rain, maybe occasionally moderate rain, but some gusty gale force winds out of the east-southeast. And then up here is where the center of high pressure will be building. We have a high that's right now kind of building upwards toward maybe just shy of 1050 millibars, and it'll be sitting over this area here into the early weekend. Some of that colder air then it's going to help force it from east to west across the interior. Looking at the weather map this afternoon, here's a low down the North Pacific trying to come northward. It's going to weaken. This front will also weaken into a trough, but as it lifts north across parts of the Panhandle, it could have a little bit of light snow or a light mix of precipitation. Back to the west, 963 low, south-southwest of the central Aleutians. This front will be lifting northward with some stronger winds, gale force winds. And then here's that high, 1048 millibar high over the Yukon, Northwest Territories. It's all part of a complex of highs that run way back over Siberia along the Arctic coast of Russia and then across the Arctic Ocean coming back into northwest and north central Canada. But the pressure gradient through here is going to be stronger across areas of the southeast mainland and through any of these valleys, gaps. And we have this kind of cold air. That's really going to drive the wind chills down. Again, places like Thompson Pass, Chilkoot, White Pass, getting stronger winds that'll have wind chills down around 50 below zero. So that high late tonight into early on Friday morning, 1049, 1050 high, respectable, with this trough here weakening coming up into the Panhandle with a few lighter snow showers or maybe a light mix. The lows back out here southwest of the Aleutians, down just above 960 millibars. The secluded front will weaken, but it does initially have some stronger gale force winds. For Friday afternoon then, the highs consolidate here over the Yukon Northwest Territories. And we just have breezy conditions, areas of the southeast interior up into Tanana Valley on the other side of the Alaska Range. Could mix down stronger winds in the middle Yukon. But by far some of the stronger winds through the gaps here will be northern Panhandle, southeast mainland. And then for Saturday afternoon, we still have the highs kind of reestablishing, but still over northwest, north central Canada. And we have a better pressure gradient there along the Gulf Coast into areas of the southern and up here into, say, middle Yukon Valley, pouring out through, say, Norton Sound or Kotzebue Sound. Easterly winds with that Arctic air pushing all the way back to the west. And then we're starting to see a collection of lows. This will be the next low of consequence that comes north, and that's going to help spread more moisture along the Gulf Coast. Areas inland from the Gulf, especially the coastal mountains, will be getting some heavier snow. In fact, some potentially much heavier snow as a series of systems then begin to work their way northward as we go through next week into next weekend. So let's look at the temperatures. 51 below there forecast for Fort Yukon Friday morning. Some of the normally cold spots will be down around or just below 50 below. And then places like Northway could be 43 below. In through area, Solana there could be down near 40 below if the wind doesn't hold up as much. But this cold air is just migrating westward. It'll modify a bit, but it's still very cold just on the other side of the Alaska Range. As you get there near Sleet Mute, you could be down around 22, 25 below. Anchorage area getting down near just above zero. 10 above Skagway, Haines. Mildest temperatures are here out along the Aleutians. Lows around 38 there at Unalaska. And then for Friday afternoon, highs stay in the 20s and 30s below east central interior. Colder air is spreading westward. but not quite as potent as when it first came out of Canada. Modify a little bit. We have temperatures southern outer panhandle, Sitka, Craig, Ketchikan, up around 36, 38 degrees. Single digits to 10 above Anchorage Bowl, and then out along the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island down into the Aleutians, highs of upper 30s to lower 40s. Along the west coast, single digits, Shishmaref down through Wales, and around Savunga, 7-8 degrees. And then Saturday morning, lows might not be quite as cold, not quite as cold as 50 below, but nevertheless 40s and 30s. And again, notice the colder temperatures shifting westward a bit. And Anchorage Bowl area, single digits above or below zero, depending on what side of town. East side typically is colder. Areas of the panhandle below freezing pretty much, with still around 10 above there at Skagway. And readings are still mid-upper 30s as you trail out along the eastern and central Aleutians. Saturday afternoon, we find temperatures out here along the Alcan border, still highs only 25 to 30 below. But again, the Arctic air mass, as it quickly moves westward and modifies, it should not get too much colder than that, because by Sunday, the pattern is going to start to bring up milder air out of the North Pacific back up along the Gulf Coast, with increasing clouds across southern areas in the Panhandle, so that'll tend to keep temperatures warmer. Looking for highs lower 40s along the Alaska Peninsula into the Aleutians, Chignik, and down through Cold Bay, and on Alaska back through Adak. And here is the temperature outlook. This is the thing that's going to make it interesting. We're still in winter, though. We have ridging that's going to allow southerly flow ahead of systems to bring in this moisture off the North Pacific into the Gulf. So temperatures are expected to be above normal across much of the state, especially along and south of the Yukon River, and especially along and south of the Alaska Range, all along the Gulf Coast, Alaska Peninsula into the Panhandle. So what does that mean? Well, it means at times precipitation could be heavier, because that warmer, milder air or water vapor can exist in it. And as lows pump up this moisture from the North Pacific, it could precipitate out in the form of heavier snow in the mountains, areas along the coast, mainly a cold rain, but then transition zones in between at times, depending on the temperature profile in the atmosphere. There could be some mixed precipitation thrown in, some episodes of that. So stay tuned to later forecasts as we get a little deeper into the new year. And this is, again, is focused on January 8th through the 12th, which would tend to take us up here into next weekend.